welcome to Rendezvous with Murielle, the podcast to inspire you to go for your dream. Because when you do go for your dreams, you align with a powerful energy and you become magnetic to people, opportunities, and even love. Today, I have the pleasure to interview Missy Day. And Missy is the founder of Passion for Success, a company that creates dynamic leaders and successful business owners. From an early age, she had a heart for helping people find their true passion and help them create a path to get there. After 20 plus years in the corporate world, she decided to follow her own heart and start her own business. A decision that has turned out to be a true blessing. So if you need help getting from here to there, Missy is your connection. So good morning, Missy. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me. It means a lot that you reached out to me to be on your podcast. I think that's awesome. So thank you. And I'm doing very well. I am glad to be here with you.
I'm glad too that you accepted. So for our listeners, I would love if you could tell us a little bit about your story of making the jump and going for your dreams and how it happened and the details of it.
Okay. Well, it requires a little bit of a backstory, if you will, because to see where I am today compared to when I was a little girl is a big leap. So through my childhood, I was abandoned not once, not twice, but 3 times during my growing up years. My mom had me at an early age and gave me to her parents to raise, and then they divorced when I was 6. And so I never knew my real biological father. So there was a whole lot of issues, and the family environment was a mess, to say the least. And it was an environment of lots of alcohol abuse and drug abuse and things like that. And thankfully for me, my grandfather instilled in me at an early age that I could do whatever I set my mind to, and that I wasn't a product of my environment, and I could choose to go 2 ways. I could choose to stay in the environment of my family's, pathological, journey, or I could choose to, create my own path and separate myself from that. So I had that encouragement my teen years and early adult life, and my dad would give me books by Zig Ziglar and Norman Vincent Peale to keep my mind going in that positive direction. So I'm very thankful to him that he gave me a way to see out of the situation that I was in, growing up as a child. And so I started, my career, and like you said in my bio, I always had a heart to help people. So I wanted to be a social worker. And so that's what I did for 10 years. I was a social worker working for Senior Services in Oregon. And I loved it. And then we moved to Las Vegas in '93. And it just wasn't the same situation here as it was in Oregon with their senior services. So I didn't feel good about aligning myself with them here. So a friend of mine called, and she said, hey, we've got this, temporary thing going on, and I'd really like it if you could help me out and go to work for this large financial institution. And I said, if you're sure that it's only temporary. And she said, yes, it's temporary. So 9 years later, I found myself in a career with financial institution, being a people manager, something I never thought I would do, something I wasn't interested in, and also being a trainer for this corporation, traveling to lots of different cities and training them on leadership and communication. And then that site closed, and so I went to another financial institution and did the same thing and loved it. And found myself 9 years later there. They closed their site. And I thought to myself then, I was like, so here I am at another crossroads in my life. And I said, so I could go one of 2 ways. I could continue down the corporate path, try to find another corporate job, or I could take all the things that I really love that I'm doing in corporate, which is coaching and training and speaking, and start my own business. And that's the path that I chose.
That's amazing. And so, as you mentioned, you took with you your talents as a teacher and a trainer and a coach. What other assets do you think you've developed because of your difficult childhood and experience that you were able to take with you into today's life and be able to relate in a deeper way with people?
Oh, I would say definitely for sure. Self-confidence is the biggest one because, growing up in that environment, it was loud, chaotic. I just withdrew into myself. So I was very shy. I didn't want to be the center of attention. I didn't want to be the person that people were looking at and wanting to make decisions. I just wanted to like fade in to the woodwork, if you will, and just get through life and not be noticed. So when I had opportunities that I didn't have a choice, part of my job was to be out front, speaking in front of people. And once I did that and I found, hey, I really kind of like this. I like being up here and teaching and talking and things. And so it would definitely be the self-confidence piece and having empathy for others that are in situations, we never know other people's journeys, where they've come from, what happened. And I truly believe in my heart that I went through a lot of things in my childhood so that I was able to identify and relate to people that were on my team, that I had the opportunity to manage, to where I could really relate to where they've been and help show them that, yes, you may have started out like this, but it doesn't mean you have to end like that.
Yes, that's a huge message, because what happens is that you show people their own strength.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Yeah.
show them by modeling that it's possible. And I see, because I know you personally too, and I feel your energy, you have developed compassion. And I think as a coach, it's crucial, because then you can really relate and know where they come from.
Right.
Yes. And if you remember, I don't know if you had a certain turning point where before you made the jump, do you remember what thought you had in your mind that helped you jump? Or I don't know if you have affirmations or something that really propelled you to trust and go for it.
So I'm a big believer in that we are given thoughts or visions, if you will, that give us an inkling of what our future holds. And I remember specifically, I had fallen down a flight of stairs and I had injured myself and I was in bed for 6 weeks. And when you're in bed on your back for 6 weeks, that gives you a whole lot of time to think about things.
Yes.
And where am I going and all those things. And I remember having a vision so clear that I was on a stage speaking in front of hundreds of women. And I have held on to that vision ever since I had it in my 20s. And at the time that they were talking about closing Citigroup, the second financial institution I was at, I remember having that vision in my head again. And I said, I don't think I'm ever going to accomplish that vision if I stay in corporate America. And so that was a driving force for me to finally decide this is the direction I really need to go in if I'm going to fulfill that vision.
Yes, so a vision. That's funny. You're the second person today that's speaking about visuals, because we have our style, and I'm very visual too, but I'm also audio. I have both, but for certain people, that vision is just in front of them, and that helps them go the distance.
Right.
Based on the people that you coach, your clients, and what you see around, the thing that you ask them to overcome in order to be able to jump, what is the most common block or obstacle that you notice out there?
The biggest one is fear. Because and when I talk about helping them get from here to there is an unknown, right?
Yes.
I'm not really sure what's over there. we feel a stirring in our soul that we need to be there, but we're afraid to make that step. And so it's that fear of helping them see that, you know what, you're really successful here, but we can't just stay here forever. We need to move forward. And I would say it's the fear is the biggest block that people have.
Yes, definitely. And do you have, I don't know, based on what you're just saying, I don't know if I'm correct, but do you have a spiritual aspect to your coaching? Because I hear you talk about soul and you talk about stuff like this. So do you also coach people on that level?
I do. Not, I am, as you know, certified through John Maxwell. And John Maxwell talks about his faith, in his books. And there's a couple of books that I use of his during coaching. So there are segments where he talks about his faith. And I tell people right up front, I have a deep faith. And so if that's, going to cause a problem, that I will recommend another coach. But I would say for the most part, people are pretty open. And I would say, in anything in life, we all have different opinions, thoughts, religious differences and things like that. And as long as everybody is open, to change for the better of themselves, I think whatever vehicle gets them there, it works.
So when you're going to take a client, you announce that that's how you coach and that it is part of your coaching. Because I know for me, it took me a long time before I could get out of the spiritual closet, if you may say. Because I'm a Reiki advanced practitioner, and I work with energy in my life. I work with tapping, which is also working with energies. And I had this huge block that if I was going to announce and put that into the world, the mainstream people would run the other direction. I finally understood that I need to be myself, and whoever is resonating with me will come to me. Is it something that you really put clearly, and if people don't resonate, you don't even want to work with them?
I usually leave it up to them. If they feel that they can be open and it's a good fit for them, then I'm comfortable with that. So I have clients that are atheists. I have clients that have all sorts of different, religious beliefs and practices. But like I said, it's not something where I'm a coach. I'm going to help you get better. I'm not trying to convert you to anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just as long, and I make it a level playing field because I don't want to start the coaching sessions and then they're reading along in John Maxwell's book where he's talking about faith, and we're having conversations. I don't want that to be uncomfortable for anybody.
Okay, I understand better. And that's a great approach. As far as what is the thing you love the most when you coach? Is there an aspect of coaching or training or working with people that really makes your heart sing, or is it the whole thing?
Oh, wow. I love everything about coaching, but I will tell you this. When I have a client that has been stuck in a job or something in life, and they don't know how to get out of it, and they tell me what their passion is that we've come about through the coaching, and then they're able to, I have lots of clients that have left their jobs to go out to follow their dreams and are being hugely successful at it. That is what coaching is all about for me. That watching people step out and, like I said, out of that fear and to be a speaker or a coach or whatever they choose to do, and watching them, just how they change, that is so special to me.
Yes, absolutely. I agree completely. You see, facial expression is changing. All the tension in the muscles are going down. It's beautiful. Do you work in person or do you work online as well?
I have some clients feel better about in person, and I will accommodate that. Since I have a lot of clients that are out of the country or out of state, I do Zoom coaching. I prefer not to do phone coaching because I don't know what they're doing. Are they cleaning the house? Are they really, focused on, you
Yes.
know, so yeah, so I like Zoom or in person.
Oh, that okay. That's good to know because our audience are people who are entrepreneurs. Is sorry, Franglish. And if they desire to work with you that way, they know what they can do and what is
Mhm.
best for them. Now, I would like to approach a subject that is very dear to my heart, and I coach a lot while emphasizing self-love
Mhm.
because that's for me that's where everything stems from. But people are very confused about self-love. They don't know what it really means. They don't even know what it means to them. So what is your personal definition of self-love?
My personal definition is that if you're looking for somebody else's validation to tell you that you're lovable, or you're depending on somebody else's love to make you feel worthy, that's not where you want to be at. You have to be able to give yourself all those things on your own. So, which means my love that I have for myself as a person is enough, and that I don't need to go outside of that for validation, if that makes sense.
Completely makes sense because then you're not dependent on the outside. You're already full, so you can even give better.
Right.
And what role did the notion of self-love play in your success?
I think, again, if we kind of go back to the self-confidence thing, there's a lot of noise in the world about you need to look a certain way and you need to try and look like the girls in the magazines to be successful. And there's all those stereotypes. And if you don't have self-love for yourself, you will fall victim to all those things and you'll be running around trying to look and be like everybody else. But when you can stand in your own skin and love that person, the you, it's the things you can do are limitless, for that. And to be able to go out and share and speak and tell my story now, if I did not have self-love, I don't feel I would be able to do that.
Yeah. Does it vary based on men or women? Did you notice that there is a common thread that women, I know because I coach a lot of women, a few men, but not that many. And for women, we have such pressure coming from the outside, like you said, with the magazines and the medias where we have to be perfect, young, fit, successful, and the list goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Always end up with a feeling of being inadequate. Is it the same for men or is it at another level in another area of their life?
That is a very interesting question and let me tell you why. So for the most part, I would say probably 85% of my clients are women and the rest are men. And do you know that the men clients that I've had, they have a harder time with self-esteem and self-love than the women do. It's going through the process. Again, the book I use is called The 15 Laws of Invaluable Growth. It's very inward, introspective, peeling back the layers, getting to who you really are. The men struggle with that a lot harder than the women.
Okay. What I find in my experience is that they have a harder time connecting with their emotions and going in. Uh, I I find that when I use tapping, it helps because it lowers the stress level in the body. But I never knew that men feel even more, struggle even more with self-esteem. That's
Yes.
wow,
Mm-hmm.
amazing. What practices did you incorporate in your life which are falling into the arena of self-love? Like one or
Um,
two?
I would say a lot of affirmations. Um, sometimes affirmations, people are like, oh, that's just like a buzzword thing. It's like, oh, who cares? And what does it mean? But it's so powerful when you can actually look at yourself in a mirror and say, I am loved. I am, successful. I am powerful. Whatever you choose to say, It's really important to have that conversation with yourself every day, because there's so many, like little thoughts and things that go through your head, and self-doubt and limiting beliefs, that if you really have to cut that off, as soon as it starts, and just believe that you can go out and conquer the world. And I tell people that all the time. You have, like Les Brown says, you have greatness within you. You just need to tap into that and believe it and go forward.
I love mirror affirmations. I'm sure you know about Louise Hay. She's the queen of it. And I find that at the beginning it feels weird, but after 2 or 3 weeks, something happens. And then you start believing it. And then I remember once I was passing in the street, and there was a reflection, and where I was very critical about myself. I criticized my appearance, and for the first time in my life, I crossed my reflection, and I was like, oh wow, I'm beautiful. I love myself, and not in an arrogant way, but in a really, like you were saying, loving yourself in a healthy way. Right. And affirmations for that are really simple but powerful.
It's very powerful. I had a client at one time that it took us, we had been coaching for 12 weeks, and she was really having a hard time with that. And I finally just went to her house and I said, we're going to go look in the mirror and we're going to do our affirmations. And she was crying, and it was very emotional for her, because there's so many people that they don't want to see that reflection in the mirror.
Yes, very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Where can people contact you if they want to find out what you're doing, or if they want to work with you?
Okay, my website is www.passion4success.net, and I can always be reached at 702-493-2611.
Okay, and I'll put that in the description also. That way you can click on it. If there was 1 or 2 last tips that you would like to give people to encourage them and inspire them to go for their dream, what would you tell them?
I would say that life is shorter than you think, and now is the time to change. If you're not doing what you love, if you don't love yourself, if you're in an environment that's not promoting you, if you don't have cheerleaders around you, today is the day to start making that change, to make that happen, so you can live the life you've imagined. Nobody wants to be on a deathbed saying, I wish I had, because it's too late.
Yes, that's scary actually, just to see. I want to thank you so much for being part of my interview podcast. It's really a deep pleasure, and I love what you were saying. And it's really important for people to have coaches, and even business coaches, who are compassionate, because at the end, we're all human.
Right.
We love to connect heart to heart. That's what we're really after. So thank you, Missy.
Thank you, Murielle.
And for our listeners, so the contact for Missy is going to be below the video or in the podcast, and go check her out. And I'll see you next week with another guest. Bye. For questions or to apply for an interview, visit datelikeafrenchwoman.com.